Let's get controversial with it. We have this tweet from Elijah Schaffer that he put up shortly before the show. And it's the image from the execution with Dilbert. And it says, quote, "There's no fixing this." And obviously it's in jest. But he's making a point about what Scott Adams said. And Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, for those who aren't familiar, he did a show where he basically was talking about the effects of critical race theory, the effects of the left's racial views. And he was talking about how racial tensions are getting worse and worse the more they fan the flames. And then he said, hyperbolically, I might add, and they took it out of context, that he would encourage people to get away. He would encourage white people to get away from black people. This is what, of course, Elijah Schaffer is pointing to. Here's why I wanted to bring this up. The first thing I want to say is, because we talked about the Scott Adams things last night, is that it seems like after if you look at the full context of what he was saying and a later clarification, he did not believe the Rasmussen poll was sound data. He was making a point about if the data were true, and this is what we're seeing with the expansion of CRT, then he's saying, fine, if that's what the left wants, this is the advice you'd have to give to somebody. In fact, Scott Adams was actually saying that he would advise, based on critical race theory and diversity hiring and stuff, a black person to move to an all-white area so that he could get the diversity job, because that's the system created by critical race theory. Mm-hmm. So he's actually being very critical of this and was opposing segregation. And it's, but I think he dropped a nuke on the conversation on purpose. The reason why I wanted to highlight Elijah Schaffer's tweet in the context of this execution in broad daylight is that whether Elijah is intending to express actual concern or just making a joke, being like, look, this guy, making a meme about it, people are going to feel this way. People are going to see what happens with Scott Adams. They're going to hear what he says. Then they're going to see this video going viral, and it's like millions of views, and they are going to take it to a racial place. So the problem I have with what's going on, I mean, first of all, our culture is decaying, and it's because of what they're doing in schools, what they're teaching kids. They're teaching them weird cult ideologies about how, you know, minorities can't succeed and things like that, which is generating hatred and animosity. You've got ABC News, Univision, funding an organization, this is the company I worked at, Fusion, where the editor-in-chief's Twitter profile says "down with whiteness." And I'm like, what do you think happens when you go around telling people to hate each other based on race? The funny thing is, they're mad at Scott Adams about it. You'll get things like this. Again, not saying Elijah Schaffer is taking it literally. I think he's memeing and being, you know, edgy on purpose. But there's going to be a lot of people in this country who are going to look at that and say, yes.
And that's a function of the left. They've been pushing for segregation in every corner of our society for years. You know, they call for segregation in schools. They create black-only dorms in elementary school. They teach kids that America is fundamentally racist. And so for the left then to go and, you know, claim and, you know, that essentially saying that, you know, if this is what you're calling for, then fine. And then calling that racist, like, you can't have it both ways. You can't claim that we should segregate and then somebody says, okay, and then call them racist for it.
They are going to try to have it both ways. They have arguments prepared for people that say that you can't have it both ways. The arguments won't make sense unless you understand their lexicon. They share a vocabulary, but they do not share a dictionary. The things that they say, when you say racist, they will have double meanings, whether it's a position of power and privilege, or if it's a prejudice.
Whatever fits their attempt at winning an argument.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
therefore they win in chaos, right? When people disagree, they thrive.
A lot of times it boils down to a fundamental philosophy that is illiberal. A lot of times you get consequentialists on the left that believe that whatever they do is okay if the consequences are good. The most important point is they are illiberal. The left has moved beyond liberalism. It is now progressive. So they support things like segregation because they believe that present discrimination is what fixes past discrimination, and the only thing that will fix present discrimination is future discrimination. These are things that are ubiquitous in the left currently, and it's infested Paulo Freire's school programs and the curriculum. It's a horrible thing that's going on, and we need to get Paulo Freire's influence out of schools.
I was thinking about this, you know, because we are out here where we are. We're away from the cities. We got local farms. You drive 5 minutes from here, and there's a farm stand with grass-fed organic beef. And the funny thing is, they don't call it that. They just call it ground beef. But it's because it's from a farm. The cows ate grass, and then they didn't put chemicals or anything in it. And I was thinking about that, so I tweeted something, but I'll issue a sort of correction. Here's how I feel. Conservatism is organic grass-fed beef. Not because it's a premium product, because that's literally the way you raise cattle. You let it walk around eating grass. Liberalism, modern, neoliberalism, is GMO-fed, genetically modified, it's corn-fed, genetically modified, cloned beef, mass-produced at a low price and available at your local supermarket. And progressivism is plant-based beef with a pH food product available in your vegan food aisle. And I do feel like, it's a silly joke, but it does kind of exemplify a lot more than just the meat argument. Like I was talking to a friend about where they could get, farm fresh meats or whatever. And I thought about it. I'm like, man, if you go to like the corporate center, you're going to get corn-fed GMO beef or whatever. And if you go to the farm, you're getting the good stuff. But the farmers are all conservative. I thought that was kind of funny. And but it's everything else. I mean, think about what schools are like for your average liberal. It's march in lockstep. It's mechanized, it's the machine. It's the high fructose corn syrup plastic bottle. But then you look at what's happening now with progressivism seeping in, and now it's the crazy gender ideology, CRT, race-based everything, and it's crazy because it's imploding on itself in a sense. They claim racism is a problem while actively being racist. It's an amazing paradox. But I guess it's just destroying the foundations of our institutions and ripping the culture apart. It's resulting in people hating each other and fighting, divide and conquer, I guess.
It's feeding racial tension. There's this Gallup poll from 2019, and I hate to bring up another poll. I know we don't love them this week. But in 2019, they found that for the first time since the poll started in 2001, more Black Americans are saying race relationships with white people are at an all-time, like they're the worst they've ever been. They describe them as, the majority of Black people, 59% described race relations with white people as bad, but white people didn't have this perception, right? And this is before everything that happened with George Floyd and our very, very public discussions of race, especially when it comes to white versus Black Americans. This was 2019. It was the year before. I think that we've had, like you were saying, conversations about race that actually don't heal communities and don't encourage understanding. They pit people against one another. And you sort of can't be surprised when we have this cartoonist saying like, well, if this is where we're headed, perhaps we should all split up.
Take a look at this. This is a quote from a news article. It says, Adams is currently embroiled in a public scandal following advice he doled out last week when he told white people to get the hell away from Black people, citing a poll that found nearly half of Black people are not okay with white people. It's like, okay, well, hold on there. That's not really what the poll said. And Scott Adams said he was being hyperbolic. And he even said he does not think the data from that poll is absolute or sound. And he thinks people should be treated like individuals. But his point was like, if there's a poll that tells you half of this group of people doesn't like you, you probably don't want to be around them. I mean, so imagine if you put it the other way and it said, the poll said half of white people didn't think it was okay to be Black. And then someone told Black people to fear or get away from white people. That's literally what the critical race theorists are doing right now.
Well, this is literally what the left wants. The liberal says that race isn't the most important factor about you. It is the content of your character. The left says, no, actually, your skin color does determine your worth. Your skin color does determine if you will be successful. And it reminds me of the Morgan Freeman clip where he says, how do you get rid of racism? Well, you stop talking about it. Or Idris Elba recently came out and he says, I want to stop being known as a Black actor. Mm-hmm. I just want to be an actor. And then today, this clip going viral of Issa Rae saying that, I'm rooting for Black. I'm just supporting anybody who's Black that's winning. And it's crazy that today we still have to point out that you are not valuable based on your immutable characteristics, that it is your abilities, it is your talents, it is the work you put in. But the left doesn't want that. They want you to be constrained and confined by your immutable characteristics because then they can control you by them.
Happy and content people do not engage in revolutionary activities. Period. They don't. The left desires a revolution because they are illiberal. They don't like the principles that this country was founded on, the liberal principles that this country was founded on. They want a revolution. So the more people that are unhappy and dissatisfied with their lives, the better for the left, period. That's the way that it is, because you don't get revolutionaries from content, happy, satisfied people. If your society is mostly happy and most people are satisfied and most people feel good and have hope for the future, you don't get revolution.
Why risk it? Why risk the good things you have going? Mm-hmm. Right now, what they have to do is convince people that things are bad. So I saw this viral video of some kid, and he's like, I live with my parents and my girlfriend because I can't afford rent. Because to even get someplace to live, like a studio or one bedroom, was like $1,000 per person. That's insane. How can anyone afford that? Right. Make sure that people can't afford to live, and you guarantee yourself a revolution. So maybe that's why they're building bunkers in New Zealand, because they're preparing for something that I guess we can all see coming and probably should prepare for too.
I mean, I don't want to talk about the possibility of like crazy international globalists creating a nuclear war to kill off a bunch of people.
I didn't say anything about that. I'm talking about economic crisis in which you get socialism, and so they have ranches in New Zealand. But this is literally what's happening. The wealthiest people in the world are building these properties in New Zealand.
Having bought citizenship there.
And other places like St. Kitts and Nevis, you can buy citizenship there. And then you're looking at all of the failed policy brought about by the Democrats and the establishment Republicans, which result in $2,000 for a studio apartment a person can't afford. Then you get a bunch of young people saying, this is the worst it's ever been. The system is impossible. What am I supposed to do? And then along comes a Marxist saying, hey, agree with me. And then we'll take it from everybody. And they say, sure, why not? Yeah. I can't get it anyway. So that's literally happening. Whether intentional or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things about all conspiracy theories is that if a thing is happening and then someone comes out and says, I believe thing happening is the result of a person wanting it to happen, they say, yeah, you're a conspiracy theorist. But you then come out and be like, I got no idea why, but things happening. And well, is that a conspiracy? No, I never said anybody was doing it on purpose. Like population reduction. How about this? How about we're seeing around the world, countries are seeing their populations decline. You've got people in the United States sterilizing their kids, aborting their kids, or just outright advocating not to have kids because of climate change. It's happening. Population reduction is literally happening. Now, the question is, can you prove an individual or individuals have been implementing these policies with the intention specifically of reducing population? Well, the answer there is yes. Not all of it. I'm not saying every single instance of every single act that reduces population. I'm saying Bill Gates goes on stage and says, we have to reduce population. So the funny thing is, this is a conspiracy theory that powerful elites have advocated for and talked about incessantly, that there are too many people since the 70s, the Malthusianism or whatever. And then you've got Klaus Schwab, you've got Bill Gates, you've got these powerful global elites saying, here are the things we're going to do to reduce population growth. Then you start seeing policies implemented that reduce population growth. Okay, fine. I'm not saying young women are being encouraged to get abortions because Bill Gates is funding super PACs or anything like that. I'm just saying, sure is great for him that the thing he wants to happen is happening, So it happens. People want it to happen. There you go. That's as far as I'll go with it. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.